Hello and thank you for tuning in. My name is Jaden, and in this video we'll look at a brand new plugin for Joomla that helps you track users in Google Analytics and still be GDPR compliant. Now, you obviously know what GDPR is, but it's this European law that tells website owners that they can't save cookies unless the user provides consent, unless the user agrees that this cookie can be saved in the user browser. Now, Google Analytics by design to operate needs cookies in order to save data and sessions and all that information. But there's a way, there's a workaround, a hack, which lets us make use of it while still not using cookies. So we can still use majority of what Google Analytics offers, but not have to use cookies. And this plugin helps you do just that in Joomla. Now, the very first step is to make sure you have an analytics account set up. If you have an analytics account which was set up, probably a year ago, a couple of years ago, you probably have a UAID, okay? But if you have a newer analytics account, which would be a Google Analytics 4 account, then you'd have a measurement ID. So this can work with both a UAID and a measurement ID. And in this next step, I'll show you how to get those IDs, first of all. So I'm logged in here into my analytics account, and this one is an older analytics account. So I can go here, tracking information, tracking code, and it'll take a second to load. And as you can see, this is our tracking ID. So we can just copy this tracking ID and paste it here, which is our UAID. In an event where you are on a newer version of analytics, which this site is, so let me just show you. Here you won't have the tracking information tab, so you want to go to Setup Assistant and Tag Installation, and you already have a stream, and here you have a measurement ID. So I can copy this measurement ID, and if I want to use the measurement ID, I'll paste it here. The second option in the plugin, which is very important, is excluding user groups. So let's say you have your administrators and you have your let's say managers, right? They're logging into the website, reviewing stuff, or making changes to content and all of that. Now this is on the front end, this is not on the back end. So anyone logging into the back end will not be tracked. But let's say you want to make sure the following user groups, when logged into the front end, do not get tracked, because we don't want duplicate information. We don't want to know what your super admins or your administrators are doing or where they're clicking, right? So you can just exclude these groups and then make sure that whatever they're doing on the website will not be tracked and will not be sent over to Google Analytics. The last important option is if you don't want to basically ping analytics.google or Google Tag Manager for the JavaScript file and really just deliver a local copy. So what this does is basically this downloads a copy of that file locally, keeps it on your server, and refreshes it automatically every 12 hours. If the copy is older than 12 hours, it'll download another copy. But really what it does is it does not do another request to Google, and kind of helps you speeding up your website. So let me enable this for a second. And if I open this website, says that, and let's say so this is analytics, right? Let's say I reload this page, right? So I can see all these files here, and one of the files I would see would be Analytics. Okay, so this request is going to googletagmanager.com, right? Because I have because we have the measurement ID, and it goes to googletagmanager.com. And so you have all these requests, which are local, but this is going to googletagmanager.com. Now, if I enable self-hosted local file and reload the page, we'll see this request, which is kind of the same request, uses the same tracking code, is not going to Google Tag Manager, is staying locally. So this kind of helps you speed up the loading time of your website too, where everything is being loaded from one URL, yourwebsite.com, and it's not like it's going out to another URL to get the JavaScript file. Now, since you have understood these options, there are a few more steps in order to make sure this works with your Google Analytics. So let me just bring this on. Go back to choose the old analytics here. So first you want to make sure you review and accept the data processing amendment. All right, you can access it by going to account settings and make sure you have all of these unselected, right? So these are data sharing settings. Basically, you're saying you're not sharing the data with other Google products. You're not sharing the data with, the Google tech support team, or the account specialist, or any of that. And then you can review the data processing amendment, click accept, right? And this will show when you last accepted it, and save it. All right. So these are the two steps you can do. And the last is disabling the user ID, which might not be enabled already. So go to tracking info, click user ID, and you can see this is already not enabled. So this just helps Google track the same user by placing a cookie whenever that user is visiting your website, different pages and all that stuff. But if this is already disabled, you don't have to disable that. And the last thing you need to do is make sure these data remarketing and advertising reporting features are turned off too. So this makes sure that the user data that is being collected on your behalf is not shared to remarket or advertise to them, right? Once you change these 4 settings, data collection, and then the account settings we discussed here, which are the data sharing settings and amendment, accept the data processing amendment. Once you do all of these settings, then you are ethically pretty much in a good coverage to say that you are neither storing cookies nor sharing user data that's being collected on your website between other partners or other channels or anything of the sort. All right, I hope this video was useful, and if you have any questions, head on over to our forum. We'll be more than happy to help. Thank you for tuning in.